Hi, today we're going to learn about lines and regions under the college algebra review. So, our first problem is we have to find the x and y-intercept, the slope, and graph. We're going to have to graph the 6x plus 5y equals 30, and then we got to find the x and y-intercept and the slope. So, what I'm going to do is, there's actually two ways you can actually do it. I'll show you one way, and then I'll show you the other way to make so you can figure out which way is more comfortable for you. So we're given 6x plus 5y equals 30. One way is to graph this is you could find the x and y-intercept, because you really need just 2 points to graph. And then so here to find the x-intercept, you plug 0 into the y value. So that's how you find the y-intercept. So we have this, so you plug in 0 for y, so this is going to be 6x plus 5 times 0 equals 30. So this is going to be 6x equals 30. I'm going to divide 6 because I need to find the x-intercept. So x equals 5. So our x-intercept is 5, 0. And that's how you write it in coordinate form. Now let's find our y-intercept. Y-intercept, you plug 0 into x value. So let's go back to this equation. You plug in 0 for the x, so it would be 6 times 0 plus 5y equals 30. So that's just 5y divided by 5, and then you get y equals 6. But so in coordinate form, the y-intercept is 0, 6, because the x is always 0. So we found our x-intercept, right? 5, 0, and our y-intercept 0, 6. Now let's find, we got to graph it, so graphing won't be too hard because we have 2 points. There's actually 2 ways you can graph it, so I'll show you the other way in just a sec. So we said our x-intercept is 5, 0, so here's our x-axis, and then here's our y-axis. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 5, 0. Let's plot our y-intercept at 0, 6. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 0, 6, and this is 5, 0. And then you just connect the dots. So that's how you graph this part. You only need 2 points. This is so to graph, I just found the x and y-intercept. The other way is, so we said that this is what we're given, 6x plus 5y equals 30. The other way is, we're going to use this formula, y equals mx plus b, where m, call that m, the slope, and our b, the y-intercept. So for here, all we got to do is solve for y, get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 6x 5y equals negative 6x plus 30 divided by 5 both sides. So y equals negative 6/5 x plus 6. Okay, so let's look at this equation, and then let's look what this equation, the y equals mx plus b formula. So we know that 6 is our y-intercept. And then we know that our m is this, because it's always connected with the x. So m is our slope is negative 6/5. And then remember, slope is rise over run. So our slope, we go down 6 and then rise 5, or you could go up 6 and left 5. Here, I'll show you. So you always start your y-intercept. So our y-intercept is 6, which is right here. And then what you can do is you could go from 6, you could go down 6, and then right 5. So here's 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's 1 point. And then you could just connect the dot, and you could keep on going. You could go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so that's and just looking at this, our slope says that it's negative, so that's that's two ways you can graph this. You can graph it by finding the x and y-intercept, or you can graph it by getting y by itself and then putting it in this form, and then figure out where's your y-intercept, and then from your y-intercept you do the rise over run. Okay, so number 2 says find x and y-intercept and graph x equals 3. So we gotta find x and y-intercept. So I'm looking at it, and it does not have. Let me just graph it. So we are given x equals 3. Note, this is not y equals 3. If it's going to look like this. This is what the graph is going to look like. Okay, so if it was y equals 3, it would be horizontal, right? It would be like 1, 2, 3, and like that, right? But it's not, because it's not. So this is x equals 3, not y equals 3. And then to find the x-intercept, we know that our x-intercept is 3. Our x-intercept, just graphing it, we can tell we have an x-intercept of 3, 0. And then for the y-intercept, we don't have one, right? We don't nothing, right? Because we don't, it doesn't touch the y-axis in any shape form, right? It just touches the x-axis. And then our slope is none either, right? Right, there's no slope. It doesn't rise over run. Now, if it was horizontal, then we would have a slope. But I'll show you when it's horizontal, and I'll show you why. This doesn't have a slope because it doesn't there's just no rise over run, and it doesn't have the y-intercept because it doesn't touch the y-axis. So that one's Let's do another one. Okay, so this one's kind of like number 2, right? The only difference is it's y equals -4. So y equals -4, it has a graph like this. One, two, three, four. It's going to touch the y-axis. So this is your graph y equals -4. Okay, so does it have an x-intercept? No, right? No, none, because it doesn't cross or touches the x-axis. Does it have a y-intercept? Yes, because it touches the y-axis at 0, -4, right? And then does it have a slope? Now, remember the last one? It didn't have a slope. I said none because it doesn't have a rise over run. This one's in this case we do, but it's a slope of 0. So there's a kind of like a difference between none and 0. In this case, just remember if it's horizontal, it has a slope of 0. If it's vertical, it doesn't have a slope. That's all you have to remember. If it's vertical like this, it doesn't have a slope. If it has a horizontal, then yes, it has a slope of 0. So yeah, so it has it does not have an x-intercept. It has a y-intercept of 0, -4, and it has a slope of 0. Okay, so number 4 says write in slope-intercept form the line that passes through the points 4, 6 and 4, -2. So it says find the x and y. Okay, so we gotta find, and then it says to use the point slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, if you don't remember, is this weird one. It's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So this is our slope-intercept form. So we gotta find m, right? We gotta find slope. So we know that slope is this formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's slope. That's how you find slope. So we're given 2 points, 4, 6, and -4, 2. First step I would do is label it. I would label the first point x1, y1, x2, y2, because it's gonna be so much easier so we don't make mistakes. So we said that y2 is 2, right? Minus y1, which is 6, and x2 is -4 minus x1, which is 4. I always label it because I know I always make silly mistakes. So 2 minus 6 is -4, and then -4 minus -4 is -8. -4 over -8 is positive. If you reduce it by 4, it would be positive 1/2. So we know that this is our slope. Slope is m. So we just got to put it in this form. So it's y minus, okay, so y1 is, you got to pick a point. You can use this point or you can use this point. I'll just use, I'm going to use this point because it's easier. So y1 is just 6, and then our slope is 1/2 times x minus x1, which is just 4. If you do the distribution or the algebra, this on the right side would be 1/2 x minus 4. 1/2 times -4 is -4/2, so it's just -2. And then bring down the y minus 6. We gotta solve for y, right? You add 6 to both sides. So you get y equals 1/2 x, and then 6 minus 2 is +4. So this should be your final answer. The other way is really we could use this equation y equals mx plus b, and then since we know our slope, which is 1/2, we just gotta find b, and then you just pick a point. Same way, we just pick a point. So I'm going to use 4,6, and we're going to plug it into the x and y. So our y is 6, so it's 6 equals, and our m is 1/2. And then our x is, I'm going to call this 4 is our x, and we don't know what our b is, so that's what we want to do, solve for b. So 4 times 1/2 is 4/2, which is 2, equals 6 plus b. We got to solve for b, so I'm going to subtract 2. 6 minus 2 is 4, and this is our b. So if we put it in this form, y equals mx plus b, we know that y equals m, which is our slope, is 1/2 x plus b, which is +4. So we both get the same answer, and that's how you can check if you want to know if you got it right. So we got the same answer, so then we know that this is the correct answer. Okay, it says number 5 says write in slope-intercept form that line that is perpendicular to the graph of 4x minus y equals -1 and containing the point 2, 3. So we gotta find a slope that is perpendicular. What is perpendicular? So first we gotta find rewrite the slope-intercept form. So it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, right? So, and then what is perpendicular? Perpendicular is when you times m1 times m2, that actually gives you -1/2. So from looking at this, 4x minus 1, right? 4xy minus -1, we gotta find the slope. How do you find the slope? You get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4x both sides. -y equals -4x minus 1, and then divide by -1, -1. Y equals 4x plus 1. So we know that our slope is 4, just 4, right? So what would be our m2? So we said m1. This is our m1. We'll call that 4/1 because it's still 4/1. Because 4/1 is the same thing as 4. So it's basically the m2 is just the negative of the reciprocal. So our m2, what is the reciprocal of 4/1? 1/4. But you need a negative because if you times -1/4 times 4/1, you should get -1. So it'd be 4 times -1/4. Does that equal -1? -4/4 is -1. Yes. So we know that m2 is just 1/4. Good. So we're going to use this to put in this formula. And then we're given the point 2, 3, right? Call this our x and this is our y. So we're going to use this point slope form. So y minus y1, which is 3. Slope is -1/4 times x minus x1, which is 2. So negative 1, do the algebra, so that would be negative 1/4 x. Negative 1/4 times negative 2 is positive 2/4. 2/4, 2 over 4 is the same thing as 1 over half. 1/2. And then y minus 3. And then you add 3 on both sides. So you get y equals negative 1/4 x. 1/2 plus 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7, so that would be plus 7/2. Okay, so what's the other way to figure this out? We could use y equals mx plus b. And then we know that our m is negative 1/4, and our y is 3, and our x is 2. So y is 3. Our slope is negative 1/4 times by x, which is 2, plus b. So negative 1/2 times 2 is negative 1 plus b. Hold on, did I make a mistake? So wait. So we're going to use y equals mx plus b. So we know that our slope is negative 1/4, and then our x is 2 plus b, and our y is 3. Negative 2 over 4 is negative 1/2. Going to add 1/2. So 1/2 plus 3 is, there we go, 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7/2 equals b. And then if you put it in the formula, y equals mx plus b, which is going to be y equals negative 1/4 x plus 7/2. So we know this is true, so this is our final answer. Number 3, so graph a solution set of x minus y is greater than or equal to 2. So I'll do it, there's two ways you can graph this. You can actually solve for y, and then first, one way is, I'm going to just figure out the x-intercept and then find the y-intercept. So we said that in order to find the x-intercept, plug in 0 for y. So it would be x minus 0 is greater or equal to 2. For this part, we don't really care about the greater equal sign. We could just call it equal because, so x minus 0 is just x, and then we could pretend that's just equal sign. X equals 2, so our x-intercept would be 2, 0. To find the y-intercept, remember you plug in 0 for x, so it would be 0 minus y equals 2. So that's negative y equals 2, so divided by negative 1. So our y is negative 2, right? So our y-intercept is 0, negative 2. And then if you were to graph it, there's 1, 2, this is our x-intercept, and then our y-intercept is negative 2. And then let's look at the original. Since this is an inequality, this greater or equal, it's going to be solid. It's not going to be dashed. Now, since this is an inequality, you got to figure out which side are you going to shade, this side or the bottom side. To do that, you got to pick a point where it doesn't cross this. So the simplest point I'm going to use is 0, 0. If it passes through the origin, you can't use 0, 0. So, and then I'm going to use the point 0, 0, and then I'm going to put it into the original equation. So that would be 0 minus 0. In this part, we actually have to care about the sign, so it's greater or equal to 2. So that 0 is... Now you're going to ask yourself, is 0 greater than equal to 2? No, right? 0 is not greater than equal to 2, because if you were to look at the number line, here's 0 and here's 2. 0 is not greater than 2. So that is false, so you're going to shade this side, the opposite side of, right? Good. And then the other way you could have done is, you could have actually solved it for y, so x minus y is greater or equal to 2. You could have solved for y, so negative x, so negative y is greater or equal to negative x plus 2, and then you divide by negative 1, and then when you divide or multiply by a negative number, then you change the sign, so y is less than equal to negative 1 over negative 1 is positive x, and then 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2. So what you could do is, so we know this is our y-intercept, and then this is our slope, right? So our slope is just 1 because of the coefficient. So you start at the y-intercept, here's negative 2, and then you could go, since this is positive, the slope is positive, you could rise 1, up 1, right 1. And put a point there, and up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, right? Up 1, rise 1, up 1, rise 1. Or you could have started from negative 2, and then you could have gone down 1, left 1, down 1, left 1. It doesn't matter which way, as long as you know that it's going positive, not negative. And then once you find the slope, and then you do the dash, the solid line, not dash. You pick a point, 0. I'm gonna use. You still can use 0, 0, and then you figure, and then it's like this part, and then you know that 0 is not greater than equal to 2, so that then you just shade it to the opposite side, so this side. Is this our last one? Yes. So this is our last one. So graph the solution set of negative x and negative x plus 3y is less than negative 6. So what I can do is find the x-intercept. Find the x-intercept and plug in 0 for y. So our x-intercept is positive 6. And then let's do the y-intercept. So our x in coordinate form would be 6, 0. And then our y-intercept is, you plug in 0 into x, so that'd be 0 plus 3y equals to negative 6 divided by positive 3. So y equals negative 2. So in coordinate form that would be 0, negative 2. And just graph it. So we said our x-intercept is 6, 0, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 0, negative 2 is right here. And then you gotta tell me, is this going to be dashed or solid from looking at that? Since there's no sign, it's not less than equal to. It has to be equal to, then that's how you know it's solid. So since it doesn't have that equal sign, it's just less, it's going to be dashed. Label your x and y axis. Okay, now you gotta figure out which side do you shade. Is it the left side or right side? So you go back to the original equation, and since it doesn't pass through the origin 0, 0, I can use the point 0, 0. Right? That's what I'm going to use. And then you put it back to the original equation. So 0, negative x times 0 plus 3y0 is just 0. Is 0 less than negative 6? And if you don't know, you could just put in number line. So here's negative 6 and here's 0. Is 0 less than negative 6? No, it's greater. So if it's greater, if that's false, you put it on the opposite side. You shade it on the opposite side. Right, and then the other way you could have done is you could have solved for y. Another way to graph it is you solve for y and then figure out your y-intercept and then figure out your slope, right? But the shading part is you just pick a point where it doesn't go through the point, so we could use 0, 0, and then put it back to the original equation. And if it's true or false, if it's true, you shade in that region. If it's false, you shade it on the opposite side. Yep, and that's it for this section.